So this morning is about, would you like to have a say in what Shoalhaven is like in 2040? Um, so uh, as business operators and professional staff, you're wanting a vibrant future for the Shoalhaven. What will it look like? What will the economy be like? In these uncertain terms, that's a big question, I suppose.
It's a hard one.
Will we have to make changes to achieve a Shoalhaven that will sustain our businesses, our environment, and our way of life? So today I have Matthew Rose and Dale Richardson, who have been part of the team responsible for producing Shoalhaven Council's local strategic planning statement. So to lead off, Matthew, what does the local strategic planning statement seek to do, and why has Shoalhaven City Council gone down the path of preparing a LSPS?
Absolutely. Thanks everyone as well for your time and the opportunity to have a chat with you about this document. Look, it's a new document. It focuses on our land use planning work. So it doesn't do the entire job of coordinating all of council's work. It focuses just, as I say, just on that land use planning work. And it looks at the work we need to do over the next 20 years to meet our community's needs. So we're doing it in response to a new requirement. So in March 2018, the New South Wales government updated the legislation that controls our work. And they required all councils to prepare these new documents, these local strategic planning statements. It is a bit of a mouthful. That's why we've gone down the route of calling it Shoalhaven 2040. It's a little bit easier. Now, the documents, they're intended to strengthen the link, the land use planning link between the regional plans and the local planning documents. So, and they're going to work by guiding the update of our local planning documents. I don't know if you're familiar with those. The local environmental plan, the development control plan, and the development contributions plan. So there are real, there are tools that we work with to make those changes to land use planning across the Shoalhaven. And these documents, as I say, they provide the link. So they also provide the opportunity for local matters to be considered as the regional plans are updated by the state government. They're essentially, they're going to guide council's strategic land use planning decisions, and they're going to be a key consideration in rezoning and development proposals. As I've mentioned, the statement, it's called Shoalhaven 2040, and that reflects the period of time that we need to cover. This is our first version, so it brings together and builds on a range of existing plans, studies and strategies. I'm not sure if you're across how many of those that council has, but there's a whole range dealing with housing provision, infrastructure provision, community facilities and infrastructure. So it really brings all those together to provide a record of our current work. And it also sets out the work we need to do to plan for the next 20 years.
So Matt, what is specifically covered by the LSPS or Shoalhaven 2040?
Absolutely. So it is a very broad, high-level document. And that was one of the challenges in drafting it, was trying to make sure that we do cover everything that land use planning touches. We've gone down the path of identifying 5 main themes or chapters. We've looked at managing growth, which deals with our homes, so the number, type and location of homes we need, and delivering infrastructure. There's great places that looks at how we look after our neighbourhoods. We know there's change. We know there's infill development on the way. So how do we look after our neighbourhoods? And also our more significant centres, our regional centres of Nowra and Ulladulla. We also look at growing the economy. So really about job creation, jobs close to home, and how we can support, that drive in economic growth. We have a chapter around protecting and adapting to the environment. So really recognising the natural assets of Shoalhaven and what we can do to protect them, but also recognising that they present risks to our built infrastructure, our built environments, and how we might start to manage the impacts of those natural disasters like bushfire and flood. And lastly, celebrating the Shoalhaven's culture and heritage values.
So how will the Shoalhaven 2040 work?
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks. Good question. So as I said before, we have those three key planning documents that really, they're the things that have teeth. So we have the LEP that sets our planning controls, essentially legislation. We have the DCP that sets more detailed guidance for what developments might look like, or the things they have to address. And then we have a contributions plan, the mechanism for funding and delivering critical infrastructure. So the statement itself will sit above those. And as I say, it guides land use planning, firstly by identifying or anticipating how Shoalhaven might change and some of the associated opportunities and challenges. So for example, we know we have a changing population. It's growing, it's becoming more diverse. Household size is changing, getting a little bit smaller. And that brings challenges with it. You know, we need to provide homes. We need to make sure there's jobs and services that service those communities. And we also need to make sure we've got the infrastructure to support them. Once it's done that, it's tried to identify those changes, opportunities and challenges. It sets a vision to provide some long-term direction for our work. So with an overarching statement that everyone's working towards, it coordinates activity, but it also allows us to review and monitor our progress to make sure that we're hitting the targets that we've set ourselves. The document then sets out some planning priorities. We've got 16 at the moment for Shoalhaven, and they're the really important things that we need to work on. So I won't read those out or go into them, but we can answer some questions about what those priorities are, and I'll encourage everyone to visit our exhibition page. But for those 16 planning priorities, we have a range of actions that we've identified to implement them. And those actions are the bits of work that direct changes to those planning and development controls that I've mentioned. And because it's our first one, we've recognised that there is a bit of an information gap. And so the document also identifies the studies and strategies, or the work we need to do to inform our future decisions. So as a couple of examples there, we've identified the need to do an audit of employment lands. We need to understand how much and the type of employment land and the type of planning controls need to support employment land over the next 20 years. Or another example is rural land. We need to understand where our strategic resources are.
I know, turning to you, Dale, tell me about Great Places. What work is underway and what's proposed?
Thanks, Drew. So we've got 49 settlements in Shoalhaven, and obviously each one is a complex mix of heritage, lifestyle, the environment and local jobs. So what Great Places has done is we've separated that out into 3 planning priorities, focusing on local character and Nowra City Centre and Ulladulla Town Centre. Council's undertaken many community engagements over previous years when developing other land use planning documents. So we've used that information to focus on some of the key themes that came through, like strong sentiments towards protecting the look and feel of our settlements. And also there's a desire to see strategic development of our major centres in Nowra and Ulladulla, so they become active and welcoming spaces that support local entrepreneurs. So having said that, Shoalhaven 2040 also recognises the importance of ongoing engagement with local communities, because it's important council just not making land use decisions that are based on what we think people know, what we think people want. So our proposed work to protect local character will help to ensure that infill and development integrates into the existing neighbourhoods. The OSPS recognises the importance of tools such as the proposed special character overlay for places like Berry, Kangaroo Valley and Milton. And we aim to guide complying development by developing built form statements for other settlements. Shoalhaven 2040 recognises the work being done currently on the riverfront precinct in Nowra, and it outlines future advocacy activity with the New South Wales Government to guide the continued coordinated delivery of critical infrastructure projects like the new bridge and the bypass. The document's also committed council towards revisiting the narrow CBD master plan and recognises the need to incentivise ongoing development of Ulladulla as a regional centre. And it's also got a commitment to renew the Ulladulla master plan.
Right, again, Dale, tell me about celebrating culture and heritage and what work is underway and what is proposed in that space.
So the heritage and culture chapter has 3 planning policies again, and they focus on recognising and protecting our cultural and natural heritage, identifying and enshrining our scenic places and values, and promoting events and public art that celebrate aspects of our regional identity. So our communities have strong connections to their heritage, and particularly our historic towns and villages. And these contribute heavily to our visitor economy. So the LSPS has outlined the need to continue the Heritage Grant Program, which provides funds to maintain local heritage. And it establishes an advisory service for development, or it outlines the intent to establish an advisory service for development involving heritage items and places. Our scenic and cultural landscapes are recognised in the document as making a significant contribution to the character of our area. And we set work to identify and protect these values, including collaboration with Aboriginal communities. Shoalhaven celebrates many local and regional events each year. So the document outlines a commitment to continue to work on providing opportunities to be creative and to celebrate, because we want to activate public spaces and sporting facilities.
So Matt, the document explores how land use planning can help grow the Shoalhaven's economy, covering a range of planning priorities around agriculture, manufacturing, defence-related opportunities. Do you want to expand on some of these statements? You got to unmute, Matt. Matt.
Sorry, everyone. That's an amateur error. I muted myself so I wouldn't disturb Dale, and you forget about hitting that button. Sorry, everyone. You missed the good stuff. Never mind. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah. Look, we've recognised, or we hope we've recognised, the importance of Shoalhaven's economy and the work to help it recover and grow from recent events. It is a bit of an awkward space at the moment. We really don't know how this is going to impact or continue to impact on how we do business, how we do our business. Nevertheless, we recognise the importance of the economy with 5 planning priorities in the document. That's the most of all of the chapters, and they really focus on how we, as I say, can support that activity and provide the jobs closer to home. So these priorities, they set the work, or what we think the work is required to support that activity, by looking at things like land supply, infrastructure delivery, and also the planning controls that apply to that land. So flexible controls that allow the economy to respond to new opportunities, challenges, and technologies. One of the challenges we're faced with is providing jobs close to home and the number of jobs that we need. So we know that people who work in Shoalhaven typically live here, with a number of jobs provided almost matching the number of local workers. But as I said, we know we need to support a greater number and diversity of jobs. Greg, you correct me if I've got it wrong, or if I've under or over, but we think there's a forecast need for more than 7,500 jobs by 2036. So there's some challenges there in how we provide those. I alluded to it earlier. Our first task is preparing an employment land study. We really need to identify the type and amount of employment land that Shoalhaven needs over the next 20 years. And as I said, that's going to be quite challenging as the market, the requirement, technologies and business, they're always changing, even more so in current times. One of the initiatives we're exploring, and you may know about this or been involved in it, or Greg may have explored it with you in an earlier session, is the nomination of a special activation precinct. So this is a new initiative by the state government. There's a couple in Central West New South Wales, and we've asked for one for the Shoalhaven. It covers our nomination. It covers several areas and matters across the local government area. That includes our Albatross Aviation Technology Park. And this special activation precinct, it aims to create jobs, attract business and drive economic growth through simplified planning processes, which relate to faster approvals, so getting businesses set up, established and on their way quicker. Coordinating infrastructure investment, so really getting the services and infrastructure that land needs to be developed. And also getting some government funded studies and master planning. So again, setting everything up ready for businesses just to drop in and get going. I think I saw a question pop up. So Greg, we can answer that one as we go now about agriculture and agriculture.
Yeah, well,
yep.
If you want to, there was one question about is there a priority on protecting agricultural land for food production?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a creep for housing on good agricultural land?
So this is one of the key bits of documents that we're expecting to raise a bit of interest from the community. And it's a bit of the document that we're actually asking for feedback on, because it is such an important issue in the Shoalhaven, looking after our agricultural land and protecting or managing the rezoning requests for residential or rural residential land. So we've recognised in Shoalhaven 2040 the need to support agriculture and aquaculture, and that it relies on protecting productive land and resources from development pressure. We've proposed a policy statement in there, sort of a clear intent, a line in the sand, if you like, to confirm that important land. And our policy statement, it basically discourages or makes a clear intent against considering new residential and rural residential rezoning proposals for rural land. And what that essentially allows us to do is, when a developer or landowner comes to council with an idea or proposal for that rezoning, we've set out clearly up front. It's not part of our policy platform. It's not something that we would support. And we've done the same for industrial land. Again, we're proposing to protect existing zone land whilst we identify the amount and type required. And we've set a clear intent with another policy statement about avoiding the rezoning of industrial land until future need is established. So there have been occasions over the past 12 months where landowners have come forward and said, look, our land is zoned for industrial. The forecast time frame for its servicing and development is some time off. We'd like a quicker return, but again, it's about holding that line and understanding that we need that land for jobs, and that it might not be an instant or a quick return.
I'll just there's a couple of questions there that are applicable to this growth. Is considering the upgrades to the roads to the north, and now we'll now be probably within 12 months we'll have 4 lanes all the way to Sydney. What is the vision for the CBD, considering that the Shellharbour retail will be so close? Because as well as bringing Sydney closer, we're bringing Shoalhaven closer, and Wollongong. Yep. And what does that really do for the Nowra CBD future?
Yeah, well, that's really jumping back to the body of work that Dale outlined. I haven't got the answers for you now, other than that we've recognised that, yes, we need to do a significant body of work around the CBD, its future role, its opportunities, its challenges, and also some partnerships, who we can work with to coordinate the planning and coordinate the investment. So
projects projects and policies we're putting in place at the moment, Greg, like the riverfront plan and subsidies for car parking and other benefits to development in the CBD are all aimed at that, trying to activate the CBD. And this document just outlines the need to do more research and to bring forward more policies to further that down the line. So we're building on things councils are already doing now. And the LSPS basically sets the groundwork for, or it sets the policy position that it's important that we continue to spend in the CBD to allow others to come in and confidently spend as well.
Right,
so, sorry, Greg, just before we leave that one, at a high level, we can, initial thoughts, if you like, the things that we'd like to share is recognising there are a number of hubs or precincts of activity across the CBD. We've got the city centre, we've got the hospital precinct, we've got the opportunities provided by the riverfront, and we've got Stockland's site and shopping centre on the other side of the highway there. Recognising its opportunities, you've mentioned their improved connectivity, the river, the natural assets, and some of the challenges, one of which I think is the connections. How do we connect all of those hubs and precincts? There's a range of other principles as well. Principally, how do we get more people into the centre, be that employed or living in the centre, to create that, that level of activity or vibrancy that really starts to support the businesses and shops and help support that local economy. So that's a very high level, broad level, and I know you could probably say we can apply that to any centre. They're generic aims, but they've been shown to make centres work. So,
right. The opening question that Anna asked was who has had input into the document and what local key stakeholders have been engaged. So I'll ask you, Dale. So you're really after this audience, and this is the second time I've heard a similar presentation or discussion about Shoalhaven 2040. How do you want members of the Shoalhaven Professional Business Association to engage in this process, to get involved?
Well, to answer the questions posed, so we did gather feedback on draft content in an online survey earlier this year, and we've coupled that with feedback and submissions that councils previously had for strategic planning documents and development proposals. But we're looking for more feedback. We're trying to get this document out to as big and wide an audience of professionals and residents and anybody else who has, they live, work, visit, own property or business in Shoalhaven. We want to hear from them, because in the end, the pudding's only as good as the ingredients that go into it. So we've had a few setbacks in the development of this document. It's taken a while to get off the ground, but we've done our best to try and get an all-encompassing document that sets that high-level direction. And the only way that we can refine it further is to get the feedback. So, we want people to get involved Shoalhaven, which we can send a link around, I'll put in the chat function after this. And that connects to our exhibition webpage, where we provide fact sheets, pre-recorded presentations. We've addressed many frequently answered questions on the subject, and there's further information there too on how you can provide feedback and what we'll do with it. So we encourage all business people, not just them, but let other contacts know that this document's out there, and the time now is to provide the feedback, because this is a 20-year vision that sets that higher level strategic planning for council over the next 3 years. There is a 7-year review on it. So every 7 years we'll look back at the document and revisit it. But this sets the direction for those further revisions. So please give us your feedback. Let us know how you think we can improve the document, or anywhere we may have any holes that you might identify in it.
Now, I know this is probably generally answered in the question, but one of the questions come up from Trent is, what are the intentions to try and keep young people in the area? Either of you have any comments on that?
Oh, look, it's a bit, that's, yes, I do. I'm just trying to think on the spot how to phrase the question. Look, there's a number of broader issues like that overlap the themes and chapters that we have. So keeping younger people, I would go to sort of initially the managing growth chapter. So it's making sure we're providing the type of homes that first home buyers, younger families, younger households need, and we get that by building or expanding the diversity of homes that we plan to provide, but also the body of work, the planning priorities around the economic growth and providing them the jobs to stay put in the area.
There's another question there about is council then going to chase an anchor tenant and whatever. I can probably answer some of those questions.
Sorry, Greg, I missed that bit.
About is council going to try and chase an anchor tenant maybe for the CBD? Yep. I think this work and other work that, and I've been involved in some of that work, is really setting a platform for the private sector to react to and move in. Now, in more recent times, it's been the bigger corporates are now rationalising and moving out, which is a bit of a worry. So council's had some input into this in trying to attract the government agencies who employ 200 or 300 people, like corrections and some of the Navy operations. It's all of those sorts of agencies that are adding to the employment structure within NARA. So I think to answer that question, and probably I'm probably more at the coalface on that one. Yes, we're trying, but in this day and age where the Bunnings and those people are just getting bigger in fewer centres, it's a little bit different. And I think the nature of the jobs are actually changing. You're not, to have an insurance company that would have 250 employees ensconced in an office. I think those days are gone. Most of those workers work.
That's what I was going to say. The way we change is working. Yeah. We might, again, it's a bit crystal ball gazing, but we might see the resurgence of some of our local centres. More people working at home, daily shopping trips to the local shops, get the coffee, maybe even co-working facilities or office hubs in our local centres. I really don't know how those sort of professional roles are going to change. But one thing I do know is that we've shown we can work from home or work remotely, and it's been successful. And we might not need those big bits of commercial real estate.
Yeah. Right. As for the fast train, there, Judy. The slow part of the train trip is between Thirroul and Helensburgh, and that's the bit that has to be speeded up, and government is looking at that because that's a multi-million-dollar solution to that. But I challenge people to get to Wollongong CBD by car that actually is faster than the train on most services. So.
Yep.
But it's the bit into Sydney where you climb the escarpment through Thirroul and Austinmere and those places.
Greg, I don't know if it's worth highlighting, but our colleagues in the state government, they're also working on a new regional plan and a regional transport strategy. And part of our job on both this document and day to day is advocating and asking for certain things to be included in that. And we've tackled the fast rail. We've said, obviously, yes, please do it. Upgrade services, upgrade stations. Look at how we can get better links between Bomaderry and Nowra City Centre. Some sort of support or supplementary service. Obviously not on rails, but how that can provide better connections between the train station and Nowra City Centre.
Righto, the couple of other comments in there. About the move, people seeing people out of Sydney moving to the Shoalhaven area so that they can have the better lifestyle, and realising that they can work remotely. So some of that is actually happening now. So I thank you both for your input. I urge the people who are listening to go to the webpage, and it's fairly prominent on the front of Shoalhaven City Council's website. Have a read some of the background documents on each of the statements is only 2 pages. The summary, it gives you the initial work. It gives you directions as to where you can put in a submission, whether it's a broad submission or a narrow submission. That's really up to yourselves. But I urge the audience here to have a think about it. How do you think you want to see the Shoalhaven in 2014, and how will it affect you as businesses, as professionals, and so on? And I think that's yeah. Going back to Anna's original question, and I'll throw to Anna in a minute, but yeah, Anna, the question is, how do we want to get engaged, and what input? The more input they can get from people like you, business people, small business people, professionals who are looking to build a professional career in this area. Yes, that's really your input is invaluable. So.
Yeah,
thank you.
100%. Thank you, Greg. And look, just to add to that, Dale and I and the rest of the team, we're happy to have a chat with any of you about any aspect of the document. You know, that's probably the easiest way to find out what it says, what it does. Yeah, and if we've addressed your query. So there is a phone number provided on our exhibition page. So please use it and get in touch. Yep.
Can we also look at Trent's question on telecommunications? Because I was speaking with Judy Bliss yesterday. Judy, you were talking about the fact that your online platform is not as good as it could be. So I think that communications, the platform that we have, is going to be critical even more regionally.
Yeah.
Have a look at Trent's question on the chat.
Yeah, but I don't think we've got the experts here to answer that.
Well,
really.
on the only thing I will say on that is we have got a chapter on infrastructure, looking at physical infrastructure, road, rail, transport connections, and also the softer stuff, the parks and playgrounds. But jumping back to the physical stuff, we've recognised in the document where the role and responsibility for delivering those different sorts of infrastructure sits. I think it's what Greg was going to allude to there, that telecoms isn't one that we can really get involved in, but we have got it down as an advocacy activity. We've said we'll work with those providers and with the state government to really get the digital platform that we need to help the Shoalhaven, support the Shoalhaven's communities and businesses.
If I can I can make a comment on that. I've recently been in discussion with NBN in their commercial division, and they are now looking at providing fibre to the premises for businesses in business zones. The issue we get is where you get housing, home activities in residential zones. The deployment of the technology is slightly different in those areas. If you're in the early roll-up, you probably have fibre to the premises, but it's a hybrid of technologies that supply telecommunications technology into residential areas. But it's definitely NBN's intent to try and connect all businesses, and I'm doing some industrial land development where we've supported NBN to supply fibre to the premises throughout that industrial estate. So they are taking a different attitude. The 5G,
the mobile network, Greg?
There are plans for the mobile network, and I've written submissions to Canberra and various places on the mobile network as well, because you go to places like Bawley Point and it's a major issue. So righto, I thank you both for the discussion this morning, and I urge everyone to log on to the LSPS website and get involved. And I'll now throw back to Anna.
Thank you, Greg. Matthew and Dale, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That was, I've taken like 5 pages of notes.
Yeah, it was a lot of information in a short space of time. So thank you everyone for following us. Yep.
Some of those notes are all the people and all the other groups that I'm a part of that I'm going to share the information with. And
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, the time frame. So the time frame for you getting feedback is the end of the month, isn't it? Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. So 31st of July, 5 p.m. is when the opportunity to provide feedback closes.
Yeah.
But the document itself, it is a living document. As we complete work, we'll be looking at reviewing and updating it. Dale alluded there, I think, or mentioned a 7-year time frame. We're actually looking to have a much shorter one that sits with each council. So councils are elected every 4 years. The next elections, they were going to be in September this year. They've been pushed back to September next year. And so that's when we'll start our first review of the plan. That's a long way of saying if you miss out this time, we're going to be talking with everyone constantly about those future updates and inviting comment on those. And hopefully the situation will be much different. We can have more time and different ways of engagement.
Well, I'll certainly be pushing it with as many people as I can over the next couple of days, just to
thank you so much for that.
A little bit to give more insight and feedback. So thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. I'll reach out after the meeting if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
So for everyone here, so the Breakfast Bite series was something that we started towards the beginning of when COVID first came to fruition, and it was probably never really intended to keep going. It was with the idea that we were going to get back into seeing face to face. It looks like that might not be happening for a while. So the committee is going to meet next week to talk about, okay, well, how can SPBA move into kind of a bit of a hybrid model in the long term? So stay with us. Keep an eye out for your emails directly coming from us in the social media as to what the next events are going to be, what the kind of format, what the topics are going to be. And if you've got any ideas or suggestions, please reach out and let us know, if there's anything that you'd like us to be doing to support the local professional business community, then please let me know, and we'll definitely include that in our consideration. So I'll sign off for now, but Greg, thank you for organising that. That was really good. And again, Matthew and Dale, thank you so much for your time, and everyone have a great day.